Almost everyone I know is struggling right now, not with their own lives, but with what they're watching happen in the world, in their social media feeds and in the news, and the sense that something has gone badly wrong out there, especially when it comes to leaders and governments and other institutions betraying the causes of human decency that most of them were originally pledged to support and protect. And I find myself in an interesting position because what I've spent years pointing toward, like stillness, presence, and a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances and transcends this world, can sound, in moments like this, almost offensive or absurd, like I'm asking people to look away. I want to address that directly today. Social media is not my natural habitat at all, but this gig and this connection you and I are sharing right now kind of requires me to engage with it. But my feeds are filled with mayhem too. I'm not entirely immune, and I sometimes feel the weight of the world pressing so heavily that joy just gets crushed. I have to find ways to consciously return to spirit, and to listening to the guidance of spirit, and I'd like to share some ways that I do that today that may be helpful to you too. The first thing I do when the weight of the world lands on me is look around at what's actually in front of my nose right now. I'm not talking about what's on the news, not about the more abstract suffering of the millions out there, but about literally what's in my immediate environment and asking, how am I in this moment right now? And almost always the answer is fine, more than fine. I'm safe, I'm well fed, and not in any danger at all. When I look around, I'm basically comfortable, and if I'm willing, I can even find something beautiful, if I'm willing to see it. So this isn't denial of the world. It isn't spiritual bypassing. It's just noticing that the suffering I'm feeling is often borrowed. It may be real in its compassion, but the suffering it refers to is not actually present in my immediate experience or environment, which reminds me that the only place it can possibly reside then is as a product of my own mind, my own thoughts. And that small noticing creates a little room. It reminds me that being locked into the malaise is not the only option, and opens the possibility of another choice, and accepting that there's more to the story than what's in my head. And in my own direct experience, occasionally this is enough, but sometimes it's not, and I make another move. This one could be a little harder. It requires what could fairly be called a certain kind of spiritual maturity, although I use that phrase carefully. When I look at the people causing mayhem in the world, the one whose actions seem cruel, divisive, and blind, and I do mean even the most egregious of them, I try to see them in light of their own conditioning and the state of their egos, not to excuse it or to be passive about it. This is not an excuse to ignore holding appropriate boundaries, but to understand that people in pain who have never found their way out of it inevitably spread that pain. Abusers were almost always abused. Fear produces fear. Egos tend to protect and even enhance themselves, sometimes viciously, as a response to their deepest fears, which are usually unacknowledged. Fears like abandonment, powerlessness, and non-existence. This doesn't dissolve my concern, but it does soften something corrosive in me. The anger and despair that, if I'm really honest, does nothing for me and costs me tremendously. And again, it opens up just a little space to see things differently, and therefore to work towards a different perspective, a different choice of response, and a different experience. It often helps, a lot. I encourage you to give it a try, even though sometimes it still isn't enough. So I go even further to remind myself and to listen carefully. And this is where it gets harder to say publicly. I'll be honest, I've held back from saying it plainly for a long time. And here it is. I genuinely believe, and more than believe, have experienced directly, that this world, as it appears, simply isn't the ultimate reality. There's more to the story. And the suffering, mayhem, and cruelty, as real as they appear here in this dimension, arise within something that is even greater. And that something itself is untouched by them. Don't mistake this for indifference. It really is almost the opposite. When I say the world is not the ultimate reality, I mean something like what the mystics and non-dual traditions across eons have pointed at. That beyond all appearance is a peace so fundamental it cannot actually be threatened, only obscured. This isn't just speculation or theory to me. In the course of my own near-death experience, I got to see and experience directly that there was an aspect of my own being that transcended this physical body, and that the pain in this body needn't be owned either. The physical body and the world it seemed to be in were clearly of an illusory nature. I've told that story in interviews many times before. You'll find it in links in the description if you'd like to hear it. But that experience was also one of many waypoints in a larger journey. There were other experiences before and many after that ultimately showed me again and again that there is more to the story than simply what this dimension serves up in all its dualistic beauty and cruelty. And it's this one here, this dimension, that is in fact illusory. In the course of my own awakening, even the experience of being an individuated self at all was clearly a projection of mine. It was a misthought that was clearly untrue. It was a simple error in thinking that seemed to lock the world and the self in place, yet revealed both to be an illusion when seen from the larger vantage point. And as such, it's possible to look past it and all perceptual dimensions to what is known beyond all of it. That is often hard to put into words, but the beauty of it is that it can be experienced directly. And it renders this dimension an illusion and allows me to remember I need not be disturbed by it, as crazy as it might otherwise appear. And when we tap into that, which is beyond our perception and beyond the ego, here's what I've found. Touching that, even briefly, can be a helpful pause and a moment of respite. But it doesn't make me less engaged with the world. It makes me more useful in it, because I'm no longer adding my own panic to the situation. I'm able to operate less out of fear and more out of love. And in this crazy world, that is surely useful. Now, I do hesitate to open this video to comments. But if you have any kind of experience that resonates with anything I'm saying here today, I really encourage you to share it in the comments below. Because when we share these kinds of ideas, they're reinforced for all of us. They gain in strength by sharing them. And that is another way of contributing to the rising tide that lifts all boats. There's a lot we could unpack in all this, which I do hope to do in the near future with more videos. So subscribing will be deeply appreciated as well. But the piece I'm pointing at isn't above the world. It's beneath it and behind it and all around, and it's available right now, which is why we gather a couple times a month on Zoom. For the record, I don't do any of these three things perfectly. These ways of looking at the world, including the one that makes it clear that the world's an illusion. I don't think anyone does that perfectly in this dimension. Some days that third one is hard to reach. I start with the first. But I keep returning, and each time I return, something settles. If the world feels like too much to you right now, that is understandable. But you're also not without some resources and support. Maybe you'll find some here. The peace isn't somewhere else. It's what's here, beyond the noise. Come and drink if you're thirsty. I'm not the source of these waters, but I do love the sustenance they give. Here's walking in spirit with you. And speaking of walking, I hope you're taking good care of yourself. That's good for the general attitude as well. Peace be with you. Maybe I'll see you on the trail.